Hi, it's Dwyer with part 2 of the December 1st, 2023 video. So to sum up, there are some very dangerous young lions, and I mean extremely dangerous. Lions that might be able to win the fight at 168 pounds. That both Canelo and Benavidez need to consider, right? David Morrell, Christian Mbili, right? One is 25, the other is 28. Just understand, at 175 pounds, 175, number one, I think Benavidez would feel more comfortable. Number two, just understand, none of the guys at 175 pounds carries with them the paycheck that fighting Canelo would bring, right? None of them, not even Bevel, right? You also have a bunch of guys at 175 who are in their 30s, right? Callum Smith, Anthony Yard, Joshua Buatsi, Dan Aziz, Arthur Beterbiev, right? If I'm Benavidez, I try to get the Canelo fight. If I can't get the Canelo fight, I leave the division and I go to 175. If I'm Canelo, I ask myself the serious question, and it's a serious question, of whether I want to continue fighting. If the answer is yes, I too fight Benavidez because the risk-reward is better for that fight than it would be fighting David Morrell, who has legs Benavidez does not have, has athleticism Benavidez does not have, and that matters against Canelo, right? Because Canelo is only 5'7", 5'8", and himself doesn't have the legs of a David Morrell. If I'm Canelo, I don't fight Morrell. If I'm Canelo, I don't fight Mbili. If I fight anybody at 168 pounds, it would be David Benavidez. If I get by Benavidez, then I'm on my own free time. At that point, I would pivot. The Terence Crawford fight awaits, assuming Crawford gets by Errol Spence. I think he does in the rematch, right? I would pick my poison because at that point, enough time will have passed and I will have reestablished my dominance. If I beat Benavidez, right, I would have reestablished my dominance. Then at that point, I can get speculative, right? I can fight Terence Crawford. I think that's a mega fight. Or at that point, I can take on the other Charlo brother, right? Food for thought. But just understand, if I'm Canelo, I don't stick around. Style-wise, I don't stick around 168 pounds. I jump to 175. I've already fought and beaten Callum Smith. I already know what that's like over 12 rounds, right? I've already fought and gone the distance with Dimitri Bivol, right? A Beterbiev fight involving Canelo that takes place in Canada, Quebec City, or Las Vegas would be a blockbuster. Canelo would know that Beterbiev is going to try to come in the pocket, right? He wouldn't know that against David Morrell, right? Beterbiev is explosive. Let me just say, at least with Beterbiev, you're fighting really a surefire boxing Hall of Famer, right? Folks, no Beterbiev fight. As long as Beterbiev's been around, as long as Beterbiev has been champion, no Beterbiev fight has gone the distance, right? So just by fighting Beterbiev, Canelo would be adding to his resume. You and I privately know a fight against David Morrell, who's already gone the distance once, right, doesn't carry the huge legacy, even though it would carry substantial risk at this stage of everyone's careers. Right? If I'm Andrade, I follow Benavidez. After Benavidez fights Canelo, I follow Benavidez to the 175-pound weight class. Folks, Andrade is simply too mobile. Moves too well, has too many styles for a Callum Smith, right? Andrade wouldn't have to fight Bivol early, right? He could fight a Joshua Buatsi. I think he beats Buatsi. A Dan Aziz. I think he beats Aziz, right? When you're a fast-handed, and he shows he still has hand speed, when you're a fast-handed guy like an Andrade, when you're as fluid as Andrade, when you have as many different styles as Andrade, you're going to upset a lot of people. I mean, understand, Andrade could make it to 175 and could upset a bunch of guys, right? Andrade Anthony Yarde is a fascinating fight. Let's just say Anthony Yarde has already been outboxed by Kovalev, right? Anthony Yarde's already been outboxed by Lyndon Arthur, right? If I'm Andrade, there are more guys I can beat. Andrade has several years left on his career if he wants it. There's several more guys that he could beat, right? To put himself in a position for perhaps another crack at Benavidez with knowledge now of Benavidez's punching power. Rather than be in the pocket early, maybe Andrade should have been outside early, then come in the pocket later in the fight, right? Canelo, I believe the light's going to go off, and he's going to say, hey, you know what? What am I doing here with 20-something young lions at 168 when I myself can jump to 175? Understand, Canelo could do whatever he wants because he's bringing the money with him. He doesn't need anyone's permission. Also, when you're at the Canelo stage of your career, understand, if Gervonta Davis at his stage of his career can say, nah, I don't want the belts, I'm good, just give me the big payday fights and I'll be there. If a belt's involved, fine. If a belt's not involved, it's okay. I'm comfortable with my resume. Canelo is clearly already a first ballot Hall of Famer, right? The belts shouldn't matter to Canelo at this stage. In other words, if Canelo wants to venture into 175 pounds, Canelo's already been a champ at 175, right? He can do so. Quite frankly, let's tempt fate. I think Canelo against Joe Battaglia, who's not a puncher, at 200 is a fascinating fight. Understand, Canelo used to spar with Frank Sanchez, who is one of the most avoided heavyweights in the sport. Sanchez, by the way, is on that big card out of the Middle East that's going to happen later this month. I believe Sanchez is going to win that fight. Sanchez is going to show you why. After he beat Efe Ajagba, nobody wanted to fight him. Right? We talk about Usyk. I know I'm just rambling here. We talk about Usyk being too mobile for most heavyweights, not Frank Sanchez. Well, understand, Frank Sanchez used to be Canelo's sparring partner. Sanchez claims that Canelo hits like a heavyweight. Right? Let's think it through. 200 has moved away from Maris Briedis right now. By the way, I think Briedis gives Battaglia in the rematch, if it ever happens, all Battaglia can handle. Right? I think Canelo would give Battaglia problems. Let's just say I would expect the cruiserweight champ to be the one on his back foot in that fight, because the secret to Canelo is that he's one of the hardest punchers pound for pound with both hands in the entire sport of boxing. Anyway, to sum up, Canelo should fight Benavidez because that has the best risk reward. The public knows both fighters, right? A loss to Benavidez wouldn't kill Canelo's legacy. You and I know if Canelo fights Morrell, that's going to stand out on the resume. Morrell in his 10th pro fight beat Canelo. Right? Folks won't be able to understand that for the next few years while Morrell builds his resume. Right? Understand, Christian and Billy is a lot like a young Mike Tyson. Right, folks? When he jumps in the pocket suddenly and starts throwing power shots with both hands, while he's not defensively blessed, understand, you have big problems. Right? Why fight lesser known guys in their 20s when you can get bigger paydays against more known guys in their 30s at 175? Right? So I believe Canelo ultimately fights Benavidez. They're both with PBC. Then I believe both guys go up to 175 because the water is too choppy at 168. Right? Gone are the days of Rocky Fielding. Even Callum Smith is up at 175 now. Right? He's in his 30s, by the way. Right? Gone are the days of Rocky Fielding and Billy Joe Saunders and Callum Smith at 168. Right? You have a new group and they're terrified. Right? As for the possibility of Andrade going down to 160, folks, just understand, 160 has one of boxing's most dominant champions. Right? Janabek might not be widely known. We're gamblers. When I'm placing a bet, I don't stand there and say, wow, is this guy well known? No. If the odds hit and I know the guy has the talent, I'm rolling with him. I'm expecting Janabek to hold on to the belt at 160 for several years. Right? More people are calling out Canelo than Janabek. Part of it has to do with Janabek's game. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this YouTube video. 175 is better known and older. I believe it fits Andrade better than 168. If I'm Andrade, I target that division. Even Dan Aziz is 34 years old, folks. Think it through, right? I'm not hanging around. Christian Mbili might be France's best fighter. Just food for thought, right? David Morrell, let's just say he might be the most underrated fighter outside of Janabek in the entire sport. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this YouTube video. Thanks for stopping by.